afternoon. I would like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone in attendance. The committee has under consideration the estimates for the Ministry of Infrastructure for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. I'd ask that we go around the table and have members introduce themselves for the record. Minister, please introduce the officials who are joining you at the table. My name is Ron Weeb, and I'm the MLA for Grand Prairie Wapiti and the chair of this committee, and we will begin to my right.
Hi everyone, Justin Wright, MLA for the charming constituency of Cypress Medicine.
Glenn Van Dyken, the MLA for Athabasca, Barhead, Westlock.
I'm Eric Bouchard, MLA for Calgary Lougheed.
Jason Steffen, MLA Red Deer South.
I'm Martin Long, the MLA for West Yellowhead, the Minister of Infrastructure, and with me today are Mark Kleefeld, my Deputy Minister of Infrastructure, Jessica Carlson, Chief Operating Officer and Assistant Deputy Minister of Strategic Integration and Operations, Brad Smith, Assistant Deputy Minister of Strategic Partnerships and Learning Facilities, and Costas Giannoulis, Assistant Deputy Minister and Senior Financial Officer.
I'm Sarah Hoffman, Edmonton Glenora.
Jasbir Diol, MLA for Edmonton Meadows.
Marlon Schmidt, Edmonton Gold Bar.
Parmeet Singh Boprai, MLA for Calgary Falcon Ridge.
I'd now like to note the following substitutions for the record. Honorable Mr. Schmidt for Mr. Dack as Deputy Chair, and Honorable Member Hoffman for Ms. Ellington, or Ms. Emaliki. And Ms. DeYoung just arrived, so would you introduce yourself for the record?
Good afternoon, everyone. Chantal DeYoung, MLA for Chestermere Strathmore.
A few housekeeping items to address before we turn to the business at hand. Please note that the microphones are operated by Hansard staff. Committee proceedings are live streamed on the internet and broadcast on Alberta Assembly TV. The audio and video stream and transcripts of the meeting can be accessed via the Legislative Assembly website. Members participating remotely are encouraged to turn your camera on while speaking and mute your microphone when not speaking. Remote participants who wish to be placed on the speakers list are asked to email or message the committee clerk, and members in the room should signal to the chair. Please set your cell phones and other devices to silent for the duration of the meeting. Honorable members, the main estimates for the Ministry of Infrastructure shall be considered for 3 hours. Standing Order 59.01 sets out the process for consideration of the main estimates in the Legislative Policy Committees. Suborder 59.016 sets out the speaking rotation for this meeting. The speaking rotation chart is available on the committee's internal website, and hard copies have been provided to the ministry officials at the table. For each segment of the meeting, blocks of speaking time will be combined only if both the minister and the member speaking agree. If debate is exhausted prior to 3 hours, the ministry's estimates are deemed to have been considered for the time allotment in the main estimates schedule, and the committee will adjourn. Should members have any questions regarding speaking times or rotation, please email or message the committee clerk about the process. With the concurrence of the committee, I would call for a 5-minute break near the midpoint of the meeting. However, the 3-hour clock will continue to run. Does anyone have any objections to the break? Seeing none, ministry officials who are present may, at the direction of the minister, address the committee. Ministry officials sitting in the gallery, if called upon, have access to the microphone in the gallery area and are asked to please introduce themselves for the record prior to commencing. Pages are available to deliver notes or other material between the gallery and the table. Attendees in the gallery may not approach the table. Space permitting, opposition caucus staff may sit at the table to assist their members. However, members have priority to sit at the table at all times. Points of order will be dealt with as they arise, and individual speaking times will be paused. However, the block of speaking time and the overall 3-hour meeting clock will continue to run. Any written material provided in response to the questions raised during the main estimates should be tabled by the minister in the assembly for the benefit of all members. And finally, The committee should have the opportunity to hear both the questions and the answers without interruptions during the estimates debate. Debate follows through the chair at all times, including instances when speaking time is shared between a member and the minister. I would now invite the Minister of Infrastructure to begin with your opening remarks. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to members of government and opposition caucuses for your time today. Appreciate the ability to present Alberta Infrastructure's estimates for 2026-27 and to speak to the work underway to support the growing needs of communities across Alberta. I've already introduced the members of my executive team with me today at the table, who I rely on every day and whose leadership ensures infrastructure continues to deliver the public facilities Albertans rely on. But I would like to share how grateful I am for their support and the phenomenal job that the team does to make my job easier and serve Albertans each day. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize a few members of my executive team that are in the public gallery today, including the Assistant Deputy Minister of Properties, Dale Beasley, Assistant Deputy Minister of Capital Projects Delivery, Ghassan El Chazli, and other representatives from the ministry, including Leonette, who's one of my favorites. Along with them are members of my minister's office who support me as well. I want to thank all of them for their hard work and dedication. Since becoming Minister of Infrastructure, I've heard directly from communities across Alberta about what infrastructure means in their daily lives. From growing towns to large urban centers, those conversations reinforce that this work is foundational to how Albertans access essential services. As we move through this budget cycle, Alberta's government is responding to today's pressures by focusing on what matters, making disciplined choices, and turning possibility into progress for Albertans. As Minister of Infrastructure, I'm keenly aware that while this ministry may not always be the most visible in government, it is consequential to Albertans' everyday lives. It affects the schools where children learn, the hospital where care is delivered, and the public buildings that keep communities safe, connected, and moving forward. When infrastructure works, Albertans feel it everywhere, and that responsibility sits squarely with this ministry. I look forward to sharing some of the highlights of this very important work with you this afternoon. Before I do, I want to take a moment to say thank you to the folks beyond my executive team here today, but to the many public servants across Alberta Infrastructure who work behind the scenes to plan, manage, and deliver these projects. Their work often isn't visible, but it makes a real difference in communities across the province. Infrastructure's work is about more than wood, steel, concrete, and construction schedules. It is about ensuring Albertans have access to high-quality hospitals, schools, mental health facilities, and public buildings. It is also about reducing red tape, driving efficiencies, and delivering value through responsible planning and sound asset management. Before I speak to the capital plan and estimates, I want to highlight an aspect of infrastructure's work that I'm especially proud of. Infrastructure has a long history of stretching every dollar. From budget 2018 to budget 2025, program expenses grew by only about 2%, even as Alberta's population grew and costs increased, driven by high inflation, pandemic price shocks, and unexpected tariffs. During that time, we delivered more with less by successfully maintaining our asset base and managing a complex portfolio of projects, all while supporting the needs of a fast-growing province. That kind of discipline does not happen by accident. It reflects strong teams, clear expectations, and a shared commitment to using public dollars carefully. I want to thank the teams across Alberta Infrastructure for keeping that focus even as pressures continue to grow. This discipline is reflected in what infrastructure delivered over the past year. Across Alberta, the ministry advanced work on more than 200 active health, school, and government facility projects, spanning planning, design, and construction. During the most recent fiscal year, over a dozen of those projects reached completion or significant construction milestones, representing hundreds of millions of dollars in public infrastructure investment across urban, rural, and remote communities. These completions included new and modernized schools such as the St. Carlo Acutis Catholic High School, which I visited earlier this week. and new or upgraded hospitals and mental health facilities, such as the new and expanded Peter Lougheed Center Emergency Department, which I had the pleasure of visiting in January. Together, these projects supported thousands of jobs across Alberta's construction, engineering, and trade sectors, contributing directly to local economies while building long-term value in our public assets. One of the most significant projects underway is the Red Deer Regional Hospital Center redevelopment, one of the largest health infrastructure projects in Alberta's history. This multi-year project represents a major investment in regional healthcare and is now well into construction, with significant progress already achieved. That progress is critical to keeping the project on track, managing risk, and protecting taxpayer dollars. Over the past year, infrastructure also completed planning and advanced construction of the Lacrete Maternity and Community Health Center, progressed work on the Neurosciences Intensive Care Unit, expansion at the University of Alberta Hospital, and continued advancing major government facility projects across the province. A key lesson Alberta's government has learned is this: strong outcomes start with strong planning. That is why infrastructure continues to invest in upfront planning, ensuring projects are scoped correctly, scheduled realistically, and delivered efficiently. Over the next 3 years, a total of $8 billion is allocated in infrastructure's capital plan to deliver the facilities communities across Alberta need. This represents a $2 billion increase from budget 2025, reflecting Alberta's rapid population growth and increased demand for schools, hospitals, and public facilities. This 3-year, $8 billion investment includes $3.6 billion for health and mental health facilities, including health capital maintenance and renewal, an increase of $1 billion or 40% from budget 2025. Some of the healthcare projects that are most important that I wanted to highlight are the following: $74 million over the next 3 years to advance the work on replacing the Cardston Health Center, an additional $63 million over the next 3 years to develop shelled space in already operational health facilities across the province. Developing shelled space is one of the fastest ways that infrastructure can deliver the much-needed capacity to health facilities across the province. My ministry will also be responsible for the additional $50 million that will improve the existing rural healthcare facilities through the Rural Hospital Enhancement Program. Lastly, additional funding of $19 million was included for the land acquisition and site readiness for the new standalone Stollery Children's Hospital to be built right here in Edmonton. $3.3 billion for school facilities, including school capital maintenance and renewal, an increase of $682 million or 26% from budget 2025. Earlier this week, it was a pleasure to be part of the announcement of the 10 new school projects included in budget 2026 for the city of Edmonton. In total, budget 2026 includes 40 new school projects, with 16 being announced last week in rural Alberta and 14 in the city of Calgary announced the week before. While the announcement of these new projects are exciting, the bulk of the capital budget for school facilities will go toward the 83 in the planning phase, 47 in the design phase, and the 30 that are currently under construction. $681.5 million for government facilities, including capital maintenance and renewal, an increase of $174.7 million or 34% from budget 2025. One of the largest investments from that bucket is the construction funding of $124.5 million to build a new office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Edmonton. Once built, it will be able to better assist in investigating sudden or unexpected deaths of loved ones. Lastly, $341.5 million for various accommodation projects, an increase of $43.2 million or 14% from budget 2025. Because demand is greatest in education, health, and mental health care, most of infrastructure's capital investment is focused on those sectors, but maintaining existing facilities is just as important as building new ones. Included in the figures I just mentioned, budget 2026 provides nearly $1 billion over 3 years for capital maintenance and renewal of government-owned health and school facilities, an increase of approximately 7% from the previous year. This funding helps extend the life of existing buildings, keeps facilities safe and functional, and avoids much higher replacement costs in the future. Infrastructure's expense vote for 26-27 is $531.3 million, an increase of $29.9 $2.5 million from budget 2025, or 5.8%. Approximately 90% of operating expenses supports the management of government-owned and leased space, including the day-to-day operation of more than 1,500 buildings across Alberta. Infrastructure's capital investment vote for 26-27 is just over $2.5 billion, an increase of $669 million from budget 2025. With that, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to present our estimates. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Minister. We will now begin with the question and answer portion of the meeting. For the first 60 minutes, members of the official opposition and the ministry may speak. Honorable members, you will be able to see the timers for the speaking block, both in the committee room and on Microsoft Teams. Question to the member who will be speaking first, Member Doyle. Do you wish to combine your time with the minister or block time?
I would like to combine it.
If it's okay, Chair, I'd prefer block to start with, and we'll see how it rolls and make a decision each time, if that's okay. So,
Block time it is. Members, go ahead.
So good afternoon, Chair, Minister, and all the members. Thank you for, the whole team appearing before the committee today to discuss the budget estimates for the Ministry of Infrastructure. So at the outset, I would like to clarify that all my questions are being asked in good faith and for the purpose of obtaining information and clarity on behalf of my constituents, Albertans across the province. These questions are not intended for any other purpose, rather they're meant to ensure transparency, accountability in how public funds are allocated and used to address the infrastructure needs of our communities. If the ministry is unable to provide specific details during the session, during this meeting, I would appreciate receiving the relevant information in writing at a later time as well. And my question or concern, I just wanted to start with the ministry's mandate. I listened to minister's statement. I would just like to, I wanted to say a lot, but read small text from the ministry's mandate. The ministry mandate document says that the Ministry of Infrastructure play a vital role in building and strengthening resilient, accessible, and future-ready communities across Alberta. It further explains that the ministry is responsible for providing Albertans with the public infrastructure needed to support healthcare, education, justice services, and economic growth through modernized project delivery methods and strong partnership with industry. Reading this mandate, this is a very long mandate, but from its statement, it is clear the ministry recognizes the critical importance of infrastructure in building resilient and future-ready communities. But going through the documents, that raises some concerns to understand how it really aligns with the ministry's mandate. So given this ministry's mandate is, and its emphasis on supporting public services through infrastructure, so looking at documents, I find it very difficult to reconcile the absence of funding for the construction of new schools and hospitals in this budget. Alberta's education system is currently experiencing a historic shortage of classroom spaces. Many school boards across the province have repeatedly warned that they are struggling to accommodate growing student populations. As a result, classrooms are becoming increasingly overcrowded. In classrooms, complexity continues to rise. Teachers are being asked to manage larger classes with increasingly diverse learning needs, often without the necessary physical infrastructure support students effectively. I also wanted to, add and say for the record, in my riding, the school capacity is running based on lottery system right now. So if you live across the school and your kids probably play every evening in the school playground, they are not necessarily getting into that school. And I get lots of issues in my office on a daily basis regarding people asking, if I can help them even get their student private school, whichever school. So the healthcare is also an issue, the particularly acute care that continues to face several severe infrastructure pressure. Hospitals in many parts of the province are operating beyond their intended capacity. In the city of Edmonton alone, there are reports nearly, I would say more than 1,000 hospital bed shortages right now. As a result, Albertans are frequently experiencing long wait times in emergency departments and in some cases receiving treatment in hallways. Like I have very first-hand experience, I would not like to share it, bad experience, due to the lack of available beds. So in my own constituency, I have heard heartbreaking stories from families who have experienced these pressures firsthand. In one particular tragic case, my constituent, you probably heard it already, Mr. Prasant Sri Kumar, lost his life after waiting more than 8 hours in the emergency waiting room at the Greenlands Community Hospital while waiting for treatment. Situations like this highlight the very real human consequences of inadequate health infrastructure. My question to the minister is this. So how does this government justify allocating $0 for the constructions of new schools and hospitals at a time when both systems are facing unprecedented infrastructure shortage? Does this decision align with the ministry's mandate, stated mandate to support resilient and future-ready communities? The government also announced plans for a new children's hospital. They did it after cancelling the first Edmonton South Hospital to distract from probably the public pushback. The Edmonton South Hospital was ready to go. The design funding was there. Even the first phase of construction funding was allocated. But this government, the UCP government in 7G, first delayed it twice and then finally cancelled it when the funding was even in the department already. And plan was ready to go. Meanwhile, the existing children's hospital is reportedly operating beyond capacity. The UCP announced after cancelling the Edmonton South Hospital, they will build standalone, independent children's Stollery Hospital. So what I see in this budget is this budget is merely design planning coming after, announcing it 3 years ago. The Stollery Hospital was announced 3 years ago. But what I see finally coming in this budget is small amount of design planning. That means we will not see a children's hospital for many more years. While we know that the Stollery Children's Hospital ran, on portable waiting areas to accommodate the capacity they are experiencing, specifically, particularly when there's a flu season, when we're going through COVID. And even if you go visit the hospital, like there's patients all over in hallways waiting to get into the emergency side, not even like the people who are admitted there. So according to this budget, we will not see this hospital coming for next many years. And my other question is, that relates to, that also is on government's estimates, page number 140. This line item 1. This is a ministry's office expense, operating expense. And when we see there's no new major project coming for the public infrastructure, there's been increase in ministry's office budget. I would really appreciate Minister can just, shed some light and explain what this increase is for, what this increase represents. Is this just inflationary adjustments, or ministers hiring more staff, or we see that the government of Alberta, chose to fund or project to table the budget that is below the inflation and the population growth. So what this increase in the ministry's office is?
Well, thank you, member. We'll now go to the minister for his first 10-minute block.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, member, and I appreciate the tone that you've set from the start, and I'm fortunate to have the best critic in government, I would say. Thank you, member. So I'll start with some of the conversation around school facilities in particular, and our ministry works in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Childcare and school authorities, and we plan, design, build, and modernize school facilities to ensure our K-12 students have access to modern, well-designed learning spaces. $3.3 billion, or 41% of the total infrastructure capital plan over the next 3 years, is for schools, and over $2.5 billion is allocated to continue delivering previously approved schools. $710 million for the Schools Now program, which includes $600 million for modulars, $55 million for capital maintenance and renewal for P3 delivered schools. It's an increase of $682 million over 3 years, or 26% from budget 2025, reflecting the government's heightened focus on school infrastructure and the progress in advancing school projects. $479 million is new funding over 3 years, $435 million additional funding for modulars, and $44 million to support planning and design work on 40 new projects, 30 for new spaces, 9 modernized or replacing existing space, and 1 to support a charter. The balance reflects cash flow requirements for existing projects. 10 school projects are anticipated to be completed in the current 2025-26 fiscal year, representing a total investment of almost $400 million. 12 additional projects are anticipated to be completed in 26-27, and 13 projects are anticipated to start construction in 26-27. Estimated new student spaces that will be created, over 11,000 since September 2024. And in the current year, and then over 9,000 will be created in 2026-27, over 21,000 in 27-28, and almost 35,000 in 28-29. Overall, budget 2026 funding is provided to support the planning, design, and construction of 160 new and modernized schools across the province. Of the 160 active projects in various stages, 83 are in planning, 47 are in design, and 30 are in construction. This does not include province-wide programs, including the delivery of capital maintenance and renewal projects, for which $54.7 million is allocated over the next 3 years. Over the next 3 years, infrastructure school capital plan spending of $3.3 billion is broken down by region as follows: $835.8 million in Edmonton, $461.6 million in Calgary, and $1.3 billion in other areas. $733.5 million for the province-wide programs to be allocated, such as CMR and modulars. So percentage by region, excluding the province-wide programs, would be as follows: Edmonton 33%, Calgary 18%, and other areas 49%. just a few Edmonton-specific that I'd like to provide for starting construction in 2027 of the 13 that I mentioned. A new 7 to 9 school in Pilot Sound, McConaughey. New 7 to 12 Catholic and Public High School in West Edmonton. New K to 6 school in Glen Riding Heights. A new K to 9 school in River's Edge. And St. Genevieve Catholic Elementary Junior High School as well. And then I know Morinville's just on the outskirts of Edmonton, but there's a École Morinville public school replacement as well. And again, I know that's just on the outskirts, but just move to the health portion, if that's okay. Do you want to do this? Let's go. So through budget 2026, we are continuing to expand, and modernize, and strengthen our healthcare system by investing in critical infrastructure projects such as upgrading and building high-quality health and mental health and addiction facilities. Several major health facility projects are underway, resulting in hundreds of jobs related to planning, design, and construction to continue to strengthen our economy. The health sector ministries, including mental health and addiction, with input from provincial health agencies and HSPs, remain responsible for working with communities to identify health priorities and for obtaining approval for all health capital projects, ensuring Albertans have facilities to meet current and future public needs. Infrastructure's total capital budget for health and mental health facilities over the next 3 years is $3.6 billion, which includes $3 billion for the construction of approved health and mental health projects, $531 million for capital maintenance and renewal, and $114 million for planning activities for health facilities. This includes an additional $339 million in newer incremental funding approved to support 11 health projects and programs, as well as an additional $97 million for capital maintenance and renewal. This is a significant increase of $1 billion, or 40% from budget 2025, due to the additional funding approved in budget 2026 and progress advancing in major health and mental health capital projects. In particular, obviously, the advancement of the Red Deer Regional Hospital redevelopment. 4 health and mental health projects are anticipated to be completed in the current 2025-26 fiscal year, representing a total investment of over $266 million. 8 additional projects are anticipated to be completed in 26-27, and 14 projects are anticipated to start construction in 26-27. Overall, budget 2026 funding is provided to support the planning, design, and construction of 68 new and modernized health and mental health and addiction facilities across the province. Of the 68 active health and mental health and addiction facility projects in various stages, 28 are in planning, 25 are in design, and 15 are in construction. The 2026 capital plan provided $339 million in new or incremental funding to support 11 health projects and programs. This does not include province-wide programs such as the delivery of capital maintenance and renewal. Some of the major projects supported over the next 3 years, obviously Red Deer Regional Hospital, $330 million for medical device reprocessing, $318.6 million for Compassionate Intervention Centers program, which includes 2 150-bed facilities in Edmonton and Calgary, anticipated to be complete in 2029. So also just a few others on the list. It's a pretty extensive list, so I probably won't have time to get to all of these for this one, but we're also bringing in $74.1 million in new funding to advance the replacement of the Cardston Health Center to begin planning and design right away. And $65.2 million for the University of Alberta Hospital Brain Center Neurosciences Intensive Care Unit in Edmonton, the schedule for which will be determined as work progresses. Some notable projects in planning include the inpatient towers at Grey Nuns and Misericordia Hospital, $7.2 million allocated to those. Each tower will, subject to future funding approval, provide an additional 300 beds. $37.9 million for the Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton, and $5 million for the Royal Alexandra Hospital redevelopment. Planning, funding, and schedules can vary between projects due to scale, scope, complexity, as well as requirements around land acquisition and site preparation. For instance, the Stollery Children's Hospital's funding currently includes land acquisition as well as site preparation work, resulting in the extension of its cash flows to a third year, whereas the inpatient towers at Grey Nuns and Misericordia Community Hospitals funding does not require land acquisition. So one of the elements of these projects is the planning component and why it's so critical. And while unforeseen circumstances can impact schedules during any construction project, we know that one of the most significant issues is starting a project without a clear business case, needs assessment, including service planning and subsequent planning activities. And it is impossible to begin construction on a building such as a hospital without knowing exactly what you're going to build first. Functional programming is critical. It must be done before a project can go into a design phase. The functional program translates the clinical needs, including required services and programs, into spatial requirements.
Thank you, Minister. We will now go back to Member Dale for his next set of questions.
Do you want to keep it block time again, or?
Again, just, yeah, for now, and again, with,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Minister. What I heard from you, there's plan for mental health facilities. That reminded me something else. You know, when the first UCP government came in, the Health Minister, Tyler Shandro, also canceled the Children's and Adolescents Mental Health Hospital that was going to be built in Edmonton. And there is so many, infrastructure debt or deficit that we need to catch up with. And what we see in this budget, that's raising the concerns. And another thing in this House, even in this session, in QP, I've heard so many times the acute care hospital and acute care minister are referring to Grey Nuns and Misericordia's, inpatient care towers expansions. So, explaining hundreds of beds are coming, but I was looking at the capital plan details, planning and design. There's $2 million in this budget, $4 million. $4 million combined for 2 hospitals. So I don't know what this is going to do. This will not even cover like designer planning, and the minister is saying they're expanding the capacity, bed capacity in Grey Nuns Hospital by hundreds of beds, and in Misericordia. If you have any other information about this, I would be happy to know for my constituents and the people who are raising the concerns. But right now I see only $4 million combined for 2 facilities that wouldn't build hundreds of new beds in these hospitals. Also, my question is on the estimates, but at the page number 140, the line item is 3.4. This is for under capital grants. This actually line item shows substantial increase in funding. The line item says this is accommodation planning projects related to government departments, agencies, boards, and commissions. And the increase is quite a bit. And I would be happy if the minister can explain so what this jump in funding is for. And is the government planning major new capital projects? Because I see it's almost 400% increase in funding. So is the government planning new capital projects related to government accommodations or facilities? If that is, but then which one is this? Because I didn't see any announcement for this project. And further, given the recent concern raised about procurement, contracting practices within ministry, I would also like to know whether any portion of this funding is connected to arrangements, that the controversial contracts in infrastructure, the element called SAMRISH. There's a lot of concerns. And every stakeholder meetings I go to, the name comes up. So is any way that SAMRISH or its affiliate companies, corporations have anything to do with this line item? Because I see there's a huge increase in funding. I would really appreciate the clarity from Minister on this, so I can get back to my stakeholders and constituents and explain it. And my question on the same page, on line item 2.3, under capital grants, that shows zero funding for this fiscal year. So last year, this item has $819,000. And now that has no money in it. That's straight went to $0. So I would also appreciate if you can help explain me, so which service program or project previously was funded through this line item, and why that funding has now been zero, totally removed. So was the previous project completed, or what was that project, and has the government decided to discontinue something that was already, under the ministry line item? And my next question is also on the same page, 140. And this is line item 3.3 relates to government-owned facilities, preservations. This budget line has experienced a significant reduction. Last year it was funded approximately 15 million, and that has been reduced to approximately like cut of above 40%. It's funded for $739,000 only. It's 42% cut. This line item exists specifically to support the maintenance and preservation of government-owned facilities. And I would be happy to get explanation, the rationale for such a large reduction in the funding in this line item. How will this funding cut affect the maintenance and upkeep of public infrastructure, such as government buildings? Because the city of Edmonton also raised concerns about the maintenance and repair of provincial government owned buildings, that they said the province does not 100% fund those repairs and renovations and maintenance, and that is the extra added burden in cities. So deferred in maintenance often leads to so many problems, we all know. So I would appreciate your answer to this, because deteriorating infrastructure is not only a loss of a public asset, but also, it's harmful in many ways to the people who use. I don't know if I'm going to get to the opportunity after this blog, because I just wanted to bring in my concern. I shared with the ministry. I don't know if this is our first budget estimates since you took the office, or this is the second one? So, I had some question around, Red Deer's regional hospital centers with its procurement and P3 models, P3 partnership. And we know that there's a study existed in many provinces like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Newfoundland, that shows the public lose billions of dollars in those contracts, and then receiving the infrastructure that is not even, meeting the basic requirements, minimum requirements. And my question was one, that what percentage of that Red Deer Regional Hospital is being built under P3, and who's gonna own that? If the government's, public's gonna own it, public is going to own it, or any portion of that built facility will be owned by any private contractor. And other than that, if this government has done their own study, comparative study, so how this funding, what every other province says is costly to the public sector, and why we are going through that route. And I was told the study is online, but I did not find that study anywhere. So I would be happy to know where that study is published and posted online, so the public can know. So why?
Thank you, member, and we'll now go to the minister for his next 10-minute session.
Thank you so much, member. I might get a little bit out of order, so please forgive me for getting some of the stuff out of order. And if I miss some of the stuff in this section, please, if don't have time today, just we'll work and talk offline as well. So again, thank you for your work on this file. The 3.4 line item that you had mentioned is, some of that is the funding will be used in this program to increase space density in office buildings through the reduction of lease space required by government. And then there is money in that line attributed to the RAM as well. So the Grey Nuns and Misericordia portion, as I had started sharing a little bit earlier, the importance of the planning element on these projects. And again, we're fortunate that on these particular projects, because they're inpatient towers added on to these facilities, that the land is available. But we will be initiating the planning at both facilities, or we began the planning at 2024, and then the planning scope of work includes the business cases, the master site plans at both sites to appropriately locate the new towers, and we expect that completion in the spring. Also restacking studies that will assess how the existing clinical and support services will need to respond to support the increased inpatient demand, expecting that completion this spring. And then the functional programming portion is currently in procurement with expected completion this fall. And so the funding is going towards that work. I really appreciated your comments around deferred maintenance creating problems, and that's something that our ministry continues to share broadly, and why we continue to ensure that capital maintenance and renewal is prioritized in our budget requests. And so we're already seeing significant investments into shovel-ready capital maintenance and renewal projects. Those Those projects employ hundreds of Albertans and stimulate economies locally where it matters most, but as you pointed out, they are necessary to maintain the facilities where Albertans receive government programs and supports every day. And so our 2026 capital plan actually allocates 926.6 million over 3 years to infrastructure's budget for the capital maintenance and renewal for government-owned and health and school facilities. And that figure does not include the 370.2 million over 3 years in CMR funding paid directly to schools by education. Sorry.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then this is examples of what's in.
And then, so some of the health CMR projects, renovating areas to meet accreditation requirements, such as for labs and updating spaces, such as clean rooms to meet updated codes and standards for infection prevention and control. As of November 30th of 2025, so the very tail end of 2025, for new CMR projects, there were 42 total projects in 30 facilities, 35 projects in 23 acute care facilities, 1 project in 1 mental health and addiction facility, 6 projects in 6 continuing care facilities. For projects that were ongoing and committed, there were 775 total projects in 169 facilities, 636 projects in 126 acute care facilities, 55 projects in 13 mental health and addiction facilities, 84 projects in 30 continuing care facilities. And for projects over $5 million, there were 36 projects total, of which 36 were ongoing and being delivered by health service providers, and 7 were under review by Infrastructure and Hospital and Surgical Health Services. I guess I can finish this one too. Yeah, and just sorry, you had a question about a particular name, Sam Maraish, and procurement, and none of that is related to Sam Maraish. So, but thanks for the question. Sorry, through the chair, of course. And as far as the P3 study, I'm not sure which study you're referring to, but a review was done a few years ago, and we have implemented all recommendations. So from the Alberta infrastructure perspective, P3s are a proven commodity. Alberta was a pioneer on the P3 model, and we have a successful and award-winning track record of delivering infrastructure using P3 public-private partnerships. They are used around the world, obviously, to successfully deliver infrastructure projects efficiently. When applied to the right projects, they encourage innovation, improve quality, and deliver long-term benefits. We will continue to work with industry partners to make Alberta's P3 opportunities more competitive, transparent, and attractive to the market. P3s are simply one tool, though, in our toolbox. When a specific project's business case does present value for money with a P3, we may proceed. When it doesn't, we use other delivery models. Currently, 18% of active school facilities projects are being delivered using the DBFM model. 2% of active health, mental health, and government facilities projects are being delivered using the DBFM model, and frankly, Alberta taxpayers deserve the best value for their investment dollars. P3s do help us make the best use of limited taxpayer dollars. Although the evaluation of Red Deer's hospital's ambulatory building for P3 delivery indicated potential value for money, relative to other delivery methods, the final bids did not actually achieve the desired financial outcomes. That project specifically, or that project component, will now be delivered through a construction management methodology. And for that, we have procured a design team and construction manager to fast track the design and initiate construction as soon as possible.
You did also ask a question before about expenditure in your office.
And then I missed a question earlier. I just wanted to double back. And that was your question about the minister's office expense. And so, yeah, I did want to just say that that increase is to account for salary increases. You know, very fortunate to have a great team in our office, and fortunately we have good bargaining that requires us to meet those expectations. But regardless, yeah, salary increases are part of that component, so. I hope that I captured most of that, if not all of it. So how about I'll do the right thing and cede 30 seconds back to the oppositions.
Thank you, Minister. And we'll now go over to Member Schmidt, Honorable Member Schmidt, who will speak next. And Member, would you like to share your time or block time with the Minister?
Yes, please.
Sorry,
Minister, would you like to?
can we do block time for one more segment and go from there?
Okay,
Okay.
it's block time. Go ahead, Member.
Thank you very much. So my first set of questions are related to line item 5, realty services. And I think these tie into line item 5.2, land services. And specifically a land transaction between the department and Sam Raish for a property at 14425 124th Avenue in Edmonton, immediately west of the Muriel Stanley Venn building. This land transaction is currently under investigation by the Auditor General, and report by the Edmonton Journal at the end of January suggested that the department is currently withholding documents that the Auditor General requested in relation to this investigation. So I'm asking the Minister to confirm, either with a yes or no answer, is the infrastructure withholding documents from the Auditor General regarding this investigation into this land transaction? And if so, can he confirm that that these documents in question are actually the subject of mediation with the Privacy Commissioner in order to obtain those things? And yes, can he just clarify what's going on with that? And if that's going on, can the Minister commit today that the department will drop the mediation with the Privacy Commissioner and instead fully cooperate with the Auditor General's investigations and turn over?
Go ahead.
The member opposite bringing up very great questions for question period, but not so much the estimates. So I call point of order on 23B, speaking to matters other than the budget in which we are here to discuss right now, as he's made forward document requests, et cetera, for matters outside of the estimates here today. So I think this is a point of order.
Member Schmidt, would you like to respond?
I would love to, actually, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. The member clearly started his question by identifying a line item within the budget, line item 5, within the operating expenses. So this is about money that is being spent on mediation, and the question is about releasing documents. And if that won't happen, then will there be a commitment to no longer pursue spending money on this specific line item as it relates to transparency, Mr. Chair? So it might be a matter of debate, but I don't believe in any way that it is a point of order.
So my question is this referring to the estimates, and where in the estimates are you referring to this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in my opening remarks for the question, I'm specifically referring to item 5 in the estimate, so pages 140 and 141. And furthermore, page 102 of the business plan, realty services overall expense. So all of my questions are related to those line items, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I will just caution to stay on the subject at hand and refer to the estimates. And we will caution you and not be a point of order at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, just to follow, just to complete my question before I was interrupted. So, will the minister commit today that the department will drop the mediation with the Privacy Commissioner, if in fact that is going on, and fully cooperate with the Auditor General's investigations? My next set of questions, still related to realty services, are based on the outcomes of the Auditor General's investigation into the Dynalife contract, because we saw the government significantly interfere with the Auditor General's investigations in that particular case. And so I want the minister.
Mr. Chair, 23I, the member opposite is falsely implying that the government is using ulterior motives to prevent the Auditor General from investigating. This is a point of order and is not pertinent to even what we're talking about right now with budget estimates, which would be 23B as well.
Go ahead, member.
Thank you very much. I think that we just save a lot of time if we heard the questions and heard the answers, Mr. Speaker. Again, the member began by referring to real estate line item within the budget, referring to, he isn't saying anybody's motives. I listen very carefully when all colleagues speak, but I'm listening especially intently during this time, as I can tell that there is a desire to call some points of order. And while they might be matters of debate, they're certainly within order. They're referring to budget line items, and they're asking, there is no reference to anybody's intention. They're specifically asking for turning over documents and specific expenditure as it relates to potential mediation. So I couldn't imagine anything more in order than referring to government expenditures when it comes to leases and mediation when it is within the Ministry of Infrastructure, Mr. Chair.
I would caution the member to not bring up anything that's under investigation that hasn't got nothing to do with estimates at all. So I would just like to, let's stick to the matter at hand, and we won't call it at a point of order at this time, but just let's stick to the main estimates and this ministry as it relates to what's before us. Thank you.
And so thank you, Mr. Chair. So, of course, dealings with the Auditor General are reflected in the budget. We pay for staff, or the department pays for staff to deal with those investigations. It's a routine part of government. I'm just wondering how the government is allocating its staff resources when I ask these questions. So, will the department provide all of the requested documents to the Auditor General without redactions, yes or no? Will the minister commit that the department will not claim cabinet privilege or solicitor-client privilege unless there is a clear legal justification to do so, yes or no? Will the department stop the potential delays of document disclosure by having lawyers review every line of every document, yes or no? Will every official involved in this land transaction agree to be interviewed by the Auditor General, yes or no? Has the department destroyed any documents or communications relevant to this investigation, yes or no? And will the minister commit today that all evidence relevant to this investigation will be preserved, yes or no? Again, my next set of questions are related to realty services. This is more in the 25-26 budget and forecast rather than the 26-27 estimate.
Member, can I just interrupt here for a second? This is backward looking. This is related to public accounts. Does not tie into the current estimates. So I would suggest that we use a different line of questioning here on this matter.
Well, Mr. Chair, as you know, Mr. Chair, we have before us documents that talk about the budget and forecast for 25-26 as well as the 26-27 estimates. So all of those things are in order.
Member, if you can tie your backward looking to the forward-looking budget, then that's fine. But if it's just backward-looking, then it's a matter of public accounts.
And so this is all related to how the department is spending money and planning to spend money, particularly with respect to line item 5, Realty Services. So, or possibly 1.1, 1.2, the Minister's Office, the Deputy Minister's Office. These are important questions related to the expenditures that are going on in these line items. So the previous minister ordered an internal investigation into this land deal. What were the findings of that investigation? And will the minister will the minister commit to releasing, rather, the internal investigation today? And if not, what exactly is the government afraid that Albertans will see if that report is released? Related to that question, I have a number of questions around the purchase of that property. I want to know if the minister can tell us who made the decision to purchase that property. Was it the minister? Was it somebody from the Premier's office? Was it the Premier herself? Was it somebody in the Deputy Minister's office? Who will take final accountability for the purchase of that property? And related to that, can the minister provide documentation showing who approved the purchase and when? My next set of questions are related to the purchase price of the property. Now, it's been reported that the department paid $300,000 more than the price Sam Raish paid for the property only 12 weeks earlier. And when my colleagues brought up this issue in estimates last year, the deputy minister of the day said that this was within...
Remember, this is all backwards looking. If you got anything that's tying anything to forward looking, that is fine. If not, then we'll stop this line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, of course, this is all related to the estimates.
But this is backwards looking, this is public accounts, this isn't dealing with the budget as it's going forward. If you could tie it to the budget going forward, but you haven't done that to this point,
I
member.
absolutely have, Mr. Chair, and I'm complying with your ruling, so thank you very much. So the department paid $300,000 more than the price Sam Raish paid for the property only 12 weeks earlier. So I'm following up on questions that the department provided to my colleagues last year. The department said that the value had been assessed and the price that the department paid was within the assessed values. My question is, the department surely must have known that Sam Raish paid $300,000 less than the department paid only 12 weeks earlier, and how is it that the department could possibly pay $300,000 more for a piece of property that was sold for $1.7 million 12 weeks prior? Related to that, I want to know if the minister can commit to tabling all of the appraisals and the work that was done to assess the value of the property and to demonstrate to the public that the price that they paid was fair. Furthermore, I have some questions related to line 5, Realty Services, with respect to the decision processes around purchasing a property. And I'd like the minister to talk about whether or not the processes were followed in this case, and if not, how the processes for purchasing the Sam Raish property differed. What was the business case for purchasing the property? And specifically, I want to know how much was the department paying to rent the space prior to purchasing the property. Now, just looking from a satellite imagery, the property appears to contain about 65 parking spaces. How many parking spaces did the Muriel Stanley Venn building actually require? And can the minister table the business case that was made to justify purchasing 65 parking spaces for the Muriel Stanley Venn, and whether or not the minister can justify spending hundreds of thousands of extra dollars for a parking lot that they were already renting. And because I don't want the minister to wriggle off the hook, I am not going to ask any more questions in this block, and I look forward to him providing clear, direct, concise answers to a question that the Auditor General is asking, the public demands to know, the people of Alberta need to have clarity on transparency, who made the decisions and why. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member and Minister. I just wanted to remind you that you do not have to answer any questions that are backwards looking, that are part of public accounts, and go ahead and answer the questions that are relevant to your estimates today.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the member. I especially appreciate the member instructing me on how to answer a question. That's very much appreciated. I will say, on this particular Edmonton property purchase, on my first day as the Minister of Infrastructure, I was briefed on this file, which included, the briefing did include my predecessor's request for the Office of the Auditor General to examine the Bathgate acquisition, along with all real estate acquisitions from the previous 2 years. At that point, I did direct department officials to immediately review this file and ensure full transparency. The scope was later expanded to include all acquisitions between April 2021 and March 31st, 2025. After reviewing infrastructure's process documentation, the Auditor General's Office requested information on 8 acquisition files. As of March 11th, 2026, all requested information has been provided, and my officials continue to meet with and provide information to the Auditor General's Office as required. I will continue to exercise close oversight as this work continues to conclusion, and once the Auditor General releases his report, I will review the recommendations made and propose solutions accordingly. As the Auditor General has work to do on this file, it has to complete a review. It is premature for me to speculate on any findings, and nor do I wish to fetter the process of an ongoing investigation and look forward to the conclusion of the audit. And I will be following up with the Auditor General now that we have submitted from our standpoint the additional information they required to make sure that they do have the documents they require. If it's okay with you, Chair, I'd like to invite my Deputy Minister to speak.
Go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. I do want to say very clearly on the record that I am not aware of any documents that have been withheld by my department. I have spoken with my 3 key officials that are involved in the audit. We are not involved of any documents being withheld. We are not involved in any current mediations. It's not clear to me what that refers to. I will also reiterate that within my first week on the job, I personally reviewed the files. I spoke with the Auditor General. I reiterated our interest in a full, fair, deep audit on this. We have every interest in understanding the truth and holding people accountable if there's any wrongdoing, and in defending my team if there isn't. So with that, I will note, I will speak with the auditor again this week. I will check up. I appreciate the flag. It is possible that there's something that I've missed, and I'll follow up on that. And we will cooperate to the full extent appropriate on this audit. We want to know the truth on this just as much as anybody else. That's my comment. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair. Mr. Minister.
And I'd also like, thank you. Mr. Chair, is it okay if I have one of my Assistant Deputy Ministers speak to this property purchase specifically? Dale Beasley.
Good afternoon. Dale Beasley, Assistant Deputy Minister, Alberta Infrastructure Properties. Just to provide some additional context to what Mark and the minister said, we do have an acquisition, disposition, and surplus policy in place. It's been in place since 2022. The policy has eligibility requirements that infrastructure as a department acquires properties for all departments. There's a small exception for transportation utility corridors. The departments must identify land requirements for the program, needs for infrastructure. They must confirm sources for the acquisition and have the necessary approvals to proceed with the acquisition. Sorry, I'm just pulling off my phone. The criteria for these are the departments must define their program criteria for new or real property. Infrastructure requires new properties for government program funding requirements in accordance with any legislative authority and available funding. But the one thing the department does not do is they not do buy properties on spec. We do not buy a property to hold it for an increased value. We do at times trade properties with municipalities across the province. In many instances for roadways, but as the member had said, this was right beside the adjacent to the Muriel Stanley Venn, which is a provincial operations center, which is a 24/7 operation. And as we entered the fire season already on March 1st of this year, which goes through October 31st, at times when the POC is elevated to level 3 and specifically level 4, we do not have the capabilities to provide parking stalls, enough parking stalls for people that are coming in for shifts as the place gets very busy. So in working with the ministry that's responsible for that, the Public Safety Ministry, we previously had leases at the spot, and we do not anymore. We bought the property, and we're looking to buy the spur in the middle that separates the property from the municipality.
Thank you, sir, for your response. That concludes the first portion of questions for the official opposition. We will now go to 20 minutes to the government caucus, and Member Van Dyken is up. Member, would you like to combine your time with the minister, or would you like block time?
Either way works for me. Block time is fine.
If we can start with block time, that'd be great.
works.
Thank you.
Go ahead, member.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the minister for all the work that you do, and to the department for all the work that you do to ensure that we have the facilities available for the work that needs to get done for all Albertans. Mr. Chair, the Ministry of Infrastructure collaborates with ministry partners, industry, and other stakeholders to plan, design, build, and deliver the government facilities Albertans need for healthcare, mental health and addiction, education, and justice. Key Objective 1.3 on page 99 of Infrastructure's business plan states that the ministry will accelerate construction timelines and reduce costs and red tape by streamlining processes. Given that infrastructure manages a wide range of projects across the province, what metrics are in place to track project timelines and budgets throughout construction? Mr. Chair, can the minister explain some of the ways that infrastructure can accelerate timelines? Also, can the minister explain some of the methods it uses to decrease project costs? What is infrastructure's success rate for completing projects on time and on budget? And what do you expect the effect of possible tariffs will be on infrastructure's ability to continue to complete projects on time and on budget? Mr. Chair, on page 100 of the business plan, Key Objective 2.2 states the ministry's focus to maximize the value of government-owned and operated infrastructure through effective management of facilities, lands, leases, adoption of operational efficiencies, reducing overall operating costs, and disposition of inefficient or obsolete assets. Mr. Chair, could the minister point to the specific factors that will aid in delivering cost-effective public services? And also, for any Albertans watching here today, can the minister provide a specific example of an asset that is managed with financial prudence? Mr. Chair, I have a question pertaining to land services, line 5.2 on page 140 of the infrastructure estimates. I understand that it involves negotiating and administering the purchase and sale of real estate for government initiatives and managing land use agreements, easements, and right-of-ways. I see that roughly $2.8 million in funding will be allocated towards land services, which is a slight increase over last year. Would the minister please clarify what this line item entails, and how does this funding tie into realty services? I note on page 112 of the budget 2026 fiscal plan, the government has allotted $284 million over 3 years to the Alberta Surgical Initiative Capital Program, a significant increase over last year's forecast. Can the minister explain how the Alberta Surgical Initiative Program will help increase surgical capacity within our health system? Also, can the minister provide an update on how many Alberta's surgical initiative projects have been completed to date and where they are located? How many of these ASI projects are expected to be completed this year? And can the minister advise which projects will be funded over the next 3 years? On the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the Chief Medical Examiner plays an important role in death investigations under the Fatalities Inquiries Act. Page 116 of the 26-29 fiscal plan budgets a total of $192 million over 3 years for projects relating to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in both Edmonton and Calgary. Can the minister advise what each of these projects will entail? And also, can the minister advise how these projects are expected to improve operations at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner? And Mr. Chair, one item within my constituency, infrastructure is responsible for the operation of the Swan Hills Treatment Center. This facility was purpose-built to process the destruction of all high-concentration polychlorinated biphenyls and is the only facility of its kind in the country. Federal government regulations required the end of use and destruction of HCPBs by December 31st of 2025. This means that the Swan Hills Treatment Center is no longer required and is slated to be closed and decommissioned. Line 3.2 on page 142 of the estimate shows $7 million this year for asset retirement obligations and environmental liabilities related to the Swan Hills Treatment Center. Minister, could you please provide us with the status of the planned closure? What work is now required to be done in order to decommission the facility, and how long will it take to decommission? Also, is there a plan in place or being explored for future use of this site? And with that, Mr. Chair, I cede the rest of my time to MLA DeYoung.
MLA DeYoung?
Thank you, Chair. Minister, are we continuing with block time?
For this round, please. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. All right, I'd like to start with key objective 1.3 on page 99 of the business plan. It talks about contract modernization and engaging with industry stakeholders. And I'm hoping the minister can highlight some of the work.
Can I just interject here? It apparently needs to go to the minister first for response and then back to Member DeYoung. Because this is block time.
They're using block time, right?
But, sorry, I think in the first 3 rounds, we can't cede time to other colleagues. Am I correct on that?
They're not sharing time, so it's. Okay, so the minister now needs to respond to the first member before we can go back to Member DeYoung. Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, MLA, for your questions. Wow, you had an extensive list today, so if it's okay, I would like to start with Swan Hills, since, as you pointed out, that does fall within your riding. The Swan Hills Treatment Center, as you know, is the only facility of its kind in Canada that was designed to process high concentration polychlorinated biphenyls waste, or HCPCBs. Federal regulations required all HCPCBs to be destroyed or taken out of use by December 31st, 2025. However, in January 2026, infrastructure became aware that in December 2025, a federal amendment passed extending end of use by 1 year to December 31st, 2026. The center did stop accepting new waste on January 1st, 2026. Remaining inventory waste is continuing to be processed with completion expected by December 31st, 2026. Infrastructure has sought private sector feedback on operations and possible future use of the center, and we are receptive to feasible and viable proposals that align with the existing operating approvals. After the facility is closed in 2027, if there are no feasible options for repurposing the site, infrastructure, as part of the ownership responsibilities for this site and the operating license, will be required to decommission, address environmental liabilities, and perform long-term environmental monitoring and testing of the site, which will take a number of years to complete. Infrastructure submitted 2 requests for funding to the federal government to help fund the decommissioning of the facility, both of which were denied. Therefore, decommissioning and reclamation work will be fully funded by the government of Alberta. We do believe this is unjust and intend to continue to pursue reimbursement. In 2024, the cost of this decommissioning and remediation was estimated by a consultant and is recorded to be $275 million upon closure in 2027. The asset retirement obligation liability fully funded and accounted for, this asset retirement obligation is fully funded and accounted for and is reviewed annually for adjustment based on factors such as inflation and estimated cash flows. As a result, this liability does vary from year to year. Now, in February of 2026, infrastructure submitted the decommissioning and reclamation plan to environment and protected areas for review and approval in accordance with the operating license. It's anticipated that once the plan is approved, completion of work could take up to 5 years. The work involves decontamination and demolition of existing infrastructure while ensuring environmental protection monitoring capabilities remain. Most of the decommissioning will be done once the plant is closed in 2027. $7 million has been budgeted in 2026-27 for dismantling and decommissioning some of the areas of the center that are not in use anymore. And once the decommissioning is complete, ongoing monitoring will occur to mitigate any risk after the waste disposal process components are dismantled. The deep well and capped site landfills will remain, but will be secured and monitored in accordance with applicable environmental regulation and ownership responsibilities. In September 2024, infrastructure issued a request for expression of interest to determine if any private sector interest in the future operation of the facility exists. This was posted on the Alberta Purchasing Connection, as well as advertised in print and in online publications. 3 responses were received when it closed in January 2025. Infrastructure reviewed the submissions and determined the proposals were not feasible. In the past, infrastructure has explored other possible future options for the center, including constructing a biomedical waste treatment center, using the center as a class 1, 2, or 3 landfill, establishing the site as a recycling or composting facility, developing a solar farm, creating a facility for power generation using waste heat, or turning the site into a hydrogen production facility or for biodiesel generation. However, the cost prohibitive nature and location of the site, as well as its limited possible uses, have not resulted in any viable options being identified to this point. And if no other options are deemed viable in the ongoing evaluation, decommissioning of the site will commence as planned. And again, I do thank you for your engagement on that particular issue, MLA. No, maybe start at the top of your list of questions. I appreciate the attention to the budget and the metrics that we have in place to track project timelines and budgets. The ministry does report on 2 performance measures related to key objective 1.3. Performance measure 1A in our business plan reports on the average number of calendar days required to complete infrastructure managed over threshold procurements. It supports the ministry in creating efficiencies and allows for the timely delivery of innovative infrastructure solutions and higher quality outcomes by enhancing the ability to deliver projects on time, on budget, and to scope, by developing more accurate project schedules and gaining efficiencies in the procurement phase, allocating appropriate resources, assessing performance of procurement processes, and identifying and implementing continuous improvement opportunities, providing vendors with timely information to determine whether to pursue a procurement given time and resource restraints faced by the vendor community, and providing a heightened level of transparency about ministry procurement processes. This metric essentially evaluates how effectively the ministry is managing procurements by setting a target to complete them within 24 calendar days. The second measure is performance measure 1B, which reports on the percentage of infrastructure managed and delivered capital projects that are on budget and on schedule. On budget is defined as measuring how a project is progressing with respect to its approved budget. On schedule is defined as measuring how a project is progressing with respect to its approved schedule. Projects are considered to be on budget if they are forecast to be completed within their current approved budget or total project cost. They're considered to be on schedule if they are forecast to be completed within their current approved schedule. On budget and on schedule performance measure applies to construction projects with a budget greater than $5 million, including government, health, and school facilities, as well as major capital maintenance and accommodation projects. I appreciated your question around how we can accelerate timelines. I know that's important to members as much as it's important to me, and we have numerous conversations about that. We've been working on several fronts to help accelerate capital project timelines to deliver the critical facilities that Albertans use. Main approaches we're using to achieve this revolve around in-year project funding approval, the standardization of design specifications, reviewing internal planning processes, and procurement process enhancements. Recently, our government announced a new in-year budget approval process, as an example, for school construction to help accelerate project progression through development stages, reducing project timelines by as much as 6 months. Funding approvals will now be made as the project becomes ready to advance to the next stage. Previous to this, if a school project completed one stage mid-year, such as design, it would have had to wait for the next budget cycle to be approved funding for the next stage, in this case, construction. As of February 2025, 42 school projects had received in-year funding approvals to move to the next stage under this new accelerated process. Work is also underway to standardize and modernize spatial specifications and guidelines for learning, health, and government facilities. This includes developing core designs in accordance with the school capital manual to reflect 21st century best practices. These core designs will reflect the size and grade configurations of schools and allow design teams and stakeholders to quickly come to consensus on layout. Health facility grossing factors and net areas are also being updated and expanded to standardize spatial specifications across acute care, with other levels of acuity to follow. Using these standardized elements for facilities where appropriate can help expedite project delivery. Infrastructure has also worked with its partner departments to initiate pre-planning work where possible before budget approval to help shorten overall delivery time from the point a project is announced. The ministry continues to examine this planning process to identify additional opportunities to further reduce timelines, including the overlap of project planning activities where possible, and performing due diligence to verify site readiness. On the procurement front, infrastructure has developed bulk request for proposals, which is using one request for proposal to select multiple consultants and/or prime contractors for construction projects. Also, pre-qualification lists of planning and project management vendors who meet a common standard on qualifications and experience has also.
Thank you, Minister. We will now go to Ms. DeYoung for the remainder of the segment, and block time has already been established. Go ahead, member.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Chair. Going back to my question I started earlier, key objective 1.3 on page 99 of your business plan, Minister talks about contract modernization and engaging with industry stakeholders. And so the question I was in the middle of asking earlier was if you can highlight some of the work that's being done in terms of stakeholder engagement, Minister, over the last year. And can you explain in what ways exactly procurement contracts have been modernized? And, you know, what is industry's reaction being to that modernization and to the ongoing efforts? And in addition to that, are contract modernization efforts still ongoing, or has that been completed? And finally, what results do you expect to see from your contract modernization efforts? I'll give you a minute 20 to answer all of that.
Go ahead, Minister.
Is that allowed? Okay. Okay.
Thank you. It's something that I've worked over the past year quite diligently to maintain a strong commitment to proactive and ongoing engagement with Alberta's construction and building sector stakeholders. Through our industry liaison committee, particularly the risk subcommittee, industry partners have been engaged in person and via email to provide their concerns and the potential risk impacts of the modernized contracts. Both the ILC and risk subcommittee meet quarterly on offset schedules and include representatives from the construction and consulting industries. I also hold biannual large industry construction roundtables, annual small and medium enterprise roundtables held in both Calgary and Edmonton, and regular one-on-one meetings with representative industry associations. These engagement activities are designed to facilitate direct dialogue with industry leaders, enabling transparent communication on emerging opportunities, sector pressures, and operational challenges related to delivering vertical infrastructure for the government of Alberta.
Thank you, Minister. And that concludes the government members' first block of questions. We will now take a 5-minute break before we move on to our second round of responses. The speaking times are now reduced to 5 minutes for the duration of the meeting. We will begin this rotation with members of the official opposition who will have up to 5 minutes for questions and comments, followed by a response from the minister who may speak up to 5 minutes. After both individuals have had an opportunity to speak once, we will then move to the government caucus in this rotation. If the member and the minister agree to shared time, we will proceed with a 10-minute segment during which neither member or minister may speak for more than 5 minutes at a time. Members are reminded that they may not share any unused portion of their 5 minutes with another member. Who's up for the, Mr. Schmidt, do you want to share your time with the minister or block time?
I'd like to share, please, Mr. Chair.
Member, do
I
you
think we'll proceed with block if that's fine.
Minister, block time it is. Member, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to follow up on some of the responses that the department made to some of the questions that I asked. So in response to my questions around the Auditor General investigation, the minister, I believe, said that, or the deputy minister, I can't remember, that there were 8 acquisition files that are subject to investigation by the Auditor General. Can the department tell the committee which acquisition files are currently under investigation by the Auditor General and what the reasons are for the investigations related to those acquisitions? I want to follow up on some of the questions that I asked about the internal investigation. So because the minister stated that he had ordered an investigation, and in fact the deputy minister in his response said that he conducted an investigation, at no point did either of those people share the results of those investigations. So I'm just curious what the findings of that investigation was, that internal investigation. And
So on 23B, speaking to matters other than the budgets, we're talking about investigations right now, not the estimates at hand on both the previous comments as well as now. Find this to be a point of order and would recommend the chair rule as such.
Go ahead, member.
Thank you very much. On behalf of my colleague, I'd like to refer to line items 1.1 and 1.2 as well as 1.3 from the estimates, page 140. They speak to how the minister's office, deputy's minister's office, and then strategic integration and operations are allocating their funds. Clearly, when you're part of an investigation, you're aligning resources within the department, the minister's office, and strategic integration to be able to comply with that. So these are related to the budget in that the department is having to allocate resources to them, resources that we're considering today in the main estimates.
So the questions have to be about forward-looking only. It's okay to refer back, but that does not, or refer to the estimates, but if it's a backward-looking investigation, that is not permissible in this line of questioning. So I would caution the member to get back to forward-looking and not about anything that's public accounts. So I will caution you, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for reminders of all members of the committee, I'm simply following up on the answers that the minister and the deputy minister gave to the questions that I asked. And so I think it's perfectly relevant to continue to press for more information because I don't think I got a satisfactory answer. Again, following up on those questions related to land services and realty services, line item 5 on the budget, I had asked the deputy what the rental cost of the property at the Muriel Stanley Venn Center was prior to purchasing this. The Assistant Deputy Minister said that they're interested in purchasing the spur line. I'm wondering how much the government is anticipating spending on that particular property. The next set of questions that I have are related to procurement. So I think this is line 2.6 of the infrastructure estimates on page 140. And certainly shortly after the budget was released, the government announced that it's going to establish a strategic procurement office inside the Premier's office. According to the government, the goal of that office is to provide strategic oversight. However, previous investigations by the Auditor General have found that political involvement continually undermines the integrity of procurement decisions. So given that finding, can the department speak to why the government is now centralizing procurement oversight in the Premier's office? How will the department ensure against political interference on behalf of the Premier's office? And can the department clarify whether or not this new office will have the ability to override departmental procurement decisions? Will who will be involved in reviewing or approving contracts? Will it be members of the Premier's office? Is it members of the public service? And what safeguards exist to ensure political staff cannot influence procurement decisions? The people of Alberta are keenly interested in making sure that procurement decisions made by this department are not politically involved, not made at the behest of individual ministers, and I'm sure that the department can provide some reassurance to us how that will be prevented. Finally, with respect to Auditor General, at the last meeting that we had with the Infrastructure Department, department officials said that that a number of recommendations related to procurement that the department made in 2022 were ready for follow-up review in 2025, and I'm wondering if that follow-up review occurred and whether or not the department passed that review. So with that, and if so, will the minister table the results of that review? And with that, I look forward to hearing the response from the minister and his department.
Okay, thank you, member. We'll now turn over to the minister for his response.
The follow-up, we are still awaiting the results on that, so, but I'll get my deputy to speak to your first question, correct?
Sure, yeah, I can speak to that, thank you. You asked about my investigation. My core finding is this, is that I did not see evidence of wrongdoing. I will note that I did not do an official audit. I'm not an auditor. I think it's my role to give the documentation available to me and conversations with my teammates the best go that I can, and then turn it over to the professional independent auditor. So that's where we're at. The short answer, my result, is I did not see evidence of wrongdoing. The longer answer is I defer the question to the Auditor General.
Thank you, Deputy. Your questions around the procurement. Our ministry practices align with trade agreements, contract law directives, and the Government of Alberta's Procurement Accountability Framework, or PAF. The PAF ensures procurement activities are conducted in a fair, open, and transparent manner. Trade agreements regulate trade between jurisdictions, reduce barriers, and set monetary thresholds as to when the agreements are applicable. Procurement posting thresholds are governed by the New West Partnership Trade Agreement, as it contains the lowest dollar value thresholds, requiring open public tender for procurements greater than $75,000 and for services, or $100,000 for construction. On the the Strategic Procurement Office was established to provide centralized expertise, training, and policy direction and oversight to advance a unified procurement model across the GOA. The office will be operational April 1st, 2026. Procurement practices will be standardized across ministries to reduce inconsistency and risk. Technology modernization is the core enabler of this change. Procurement processes are also being modernized to make it easier and faster for vendors to do business with government, reducing administrative burden and improving vendor experience and overall efficiency. To accelerate the speed of business, the government is adopting new tools and streamlined workflows. This includes enhancing data systems and analytics to increase purchasing power, improve decision-making, and increase transparency for Albertans. Some of the tools we are exploring include artificial intelligence, such as automated analysis, digital assistance, and smart screening systems will help staff work faster, make better informed decisions, and reduce manual processing. Digital platforms, e-signatures, and advanced management systems will further streamline how work gets done. A little bit more around the OAG. There are 4 outstanding audit recommendations from the Office of the Auditor General for my ministry. The recommendations are related to the procurement processes audit report issued in June 2022, where the overall conclusion was that infrastructure had processes to conduct procurements of its construction tenders fairly and competitively, but not all processes were effective and improvements could be made. With that, we accepted all recommendations and developed a plan to implement them. All key findings have controls in place, and infrastructure is ready for the OAG to complete a follow-up audit on the implementation of these controls to determine if the recommendations have been addressed. In April 2025, infrastructure wrote to the OAG indicating it could return to audit the implementation of the recommendations, and we are expecting the audit to occur in 2026. The four outstanding recommendations from the audit and the key actions that infrastructure has taken them to address them to date are as follows. Recommendation 1 was to improve controls for ensuring compliance with trade agreements. The ministry has implemented, documented, and started auditing process improvements where procurement specialists and management check trade agreement requirements for solicitation documents. This checkpoint is supported by a decision matrix that assists in identifying the correct posting period. Recommendation 2 was around improving controls for receiving submissions.
Thank you, Minister. We will now go to the government members, and Member Wright is up. Do you want block time or share time with the Minister?
I'll do block, if that works for you.
Go ahead, Member.
Well, thank you, Minister, and through you, Chair. Minister, I'm going to hit up the value for money delivery models, financial tools, and best fit approach for project delivery found on page 97 of the estimates. When delivering the infrastructure projects Albertans need, it's important to ensure that these projects provide value for Albertans' hard-earned tax dollars. Page 97 of the business plan talks about project delivery and ways infrastructure strives to deliver value for money. I'd like to ask you about various financing tools and delivery methods infrastructure employs to ensure a project delivery meets value for money. Can you tell us about the different types of financial tools and delivery methods infrastructure is using to complete its projects? How infrastructure determines the best delivery method for each of these projects to get them done quickly and in a way that's best value for money? And, you know, I think that there's an avenue here where we can even share some best practices that your ministry is using to get projects done. Most notably for me in my riding would be the brand new school the Medicine-Hat Catholic Board of Education is currently building that is combining a number of schools that had exceedingly large amounts of maintenance due to them, or due for them due to age. Minister, I'm also going to continue to stay with some of the building and value for money pieces, but I'm also going to tie into the Real Property Governance Act, Red Tape Reduction, and Outcomes 2.3 on and page 100. The goal of the act is to realize cost savings reducing red tape, and increasing transparency in the management of the Government of Alberta properties. These properties can range from schools to visitor centers in the Cypress County vicinity, as well as many different properties across this province. Objective 2.3 on page 100 of the business plan states, optimize the value, use, transfer, and management of all provincially funded real property assets through continued implementation of the Real Property Governance Act. Given that it has been a couple of years since the act came into force, how has the Real Property Governance Act reduced red tape since its inception? Can the minister advise us on how many offers to transfer have been received and accepted since the introduction of this act? And can you provide an update on how many cost savings have been realized to date? And how much revenue has been realized from the sale of unused government properties? I'm going to move on to the South Zone cardiac and ICU capacity. $59 million over 3 years has been planned and can be found on fiscal plan page 112. The 2026 to 29 fiscal plan, I'm pleased to see a project that I've been advocating for, getting the funding to get done. $59 million is being planned over 3 years for the South Zone cardiac and ICU capacity project. Can the minister provide a breakdown of how these initiatives are going to be spent within the South Zone? Can the minister explain how this project supports the health infrastructure development in southern Alberta? And once the project is complete, how many new bed spaces will be seen by Albertans who require these services? And what is the plan for the modernization of these spaces in both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat? Minister, I will also bring forward the school pipeline, having mentioned a school already with a $8.6 billion estimate on construction and pre-planning found in the business plan on page 97. Can you explain the difference between pre-planning and the planning funding versus construction? And can you explain the overall process and how we can get from initial funding to completion, and why is it currently taking so long? And with that, I will turn it over to you for your answers.
Thank you, member, and minister, you're up next for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to the member. I would like to start, if it's all right with you, with your questions around the South Zone cardiac and ICU capacity. Again, I just really appreciate your advocacy on behalf of your constituents, and really pleased that our government has prioritized that project. This investment of $59 million over 3 years will be used to enhance cardiac services and intensive care in southern Alberta. More specifically, this project includes the planning and design work for cardiac care and ICU capacity in the South Zone, which will be enhanced by development of the shelled and vacant spaces at Chinook Regional Hospital in Lethbridge and at Medicine Hat Regional Hospital. This project includes a new cardiac catheterization lab at Chinook Regional Hospital, along with expanded intensive care units and enhanced diagnostic capabilities in both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. These upgrades will improve access to life-saving cardiac care and strengthen the region's ability to treat patients with complex and critical needs. This project will enhance the cardiac care availability in the South Zone of Alberta by offering cardiac services closer to home for many patients of the South Zone. This limits the amount of traveling they will have to do to receive this life-saving care, and collectively, these improvements will enhance access to critical cardiac care and further strengthen the region's capacity to manage patients with complex and acute medical needs. Once complete, the expansion is expected to significantly increase intensive care capacity in southern Alberta. Subject to final design and construction outcomes, 54 intensive care beds are anticipated at Chinook Regional Hospital, and 18 are expected at Medicine Hat Regional Hospital, inclusive of current capacity. The cardiac catheterization lab in Lethbridge is expected to serve approximately 1,500 to 1,700 patients each year, once fully operational. Upon completion of this project, both facilities will see an increase of 42 intensive care and acuity adaptable beds, 34 additional beds at Chinook Regional Hospital and 8 at Medicine Hat Regional Hospital. This expanded bed capacity represents just one aspect of the broader initiative, which also includes the establishment of a new cardiac catheterization laboratory at Chinook Regional Hospital, as well as enlarged intensive care units and enhanced diagnostic services in both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. And again, I just really appreciate the advocacy you've put in, and anticipate that that will be very good news for your community and surrounding communities. No, you did ask about the different types of financing tools and delivery methods infrastructure uses on projects. Leveraging public-private partnerships and unsolicited proposals allows creative approaches for financing projects that deliver value for money, create job opportunities, and stimulate Alberta's economy and strengthen the government's fiscal responsibility. Alberta has a strong record of delivering value for Albertans by employing design, build, finance, maintain, delivery model, also known as a P3 model. To date, 12 P3 projects have been completed to achieve savings over traditional methods. Along with this, the enhanced focus on asset longevity ensures that our end users can focus more on the delivery of the services they provide. It's one tool in the toolkit, and we generally see major new build capital projects as potential candidates for P3s. The project size over $100 million gives us a threshold that the benefits of the risk transfer can offset with the additional cost of private financing. If there's no value for money determined, we would use a traditional method such as design bid build or design build. Alberta's unsolicited proposals, or USP framework, encourages private sector financing of public infrastructure outside the standard capital programs. Consideration is given to how these proposals may generate benefit for the public, and they are not a replacement for any grant programs or capital projects the government delivers. On how we determine the best delivery method, we assess the specific attributes and objectives of each project to determine the most appropriate delivery method, with value for money to the province as the primary consideration. Infrastructure uses various delivery models, including design bid build, construction management, design build, finance, maintain. So the delivery method can be matched to the project's scope, certainty.
Thank you, Minister. We will now move back to the official opposition with Honorable Member Hoffman speaking. Would you like block time or shared time with the Minister?
I'd like to share if the minister's willing.
Let's continue with block, member, if that's okay.
Block?
Block, if that's
Okay, sure.
Just
For fear that this might be my only opportunity to speak to this section of the budget, I'm going to go rather quickly. The first section I'm going to talk about is the Royal Alberta Museum demolition. It's referred to on page 94 of the fiscal plan, as well as item 3.1 on page 140 of the main estimates line item. It's been noted in the capital plan, fiscal plan here, that $30 million increase to that line item, property operations, is for the demolition of the former Royal Alberta Museum. And I want to say how disappointed I am, because I was actually very pleased about a year ago when the minister took over this file that there was a pause put on that previous minister's direction, that the community was being involved. We've had meetings about this, and I am grateful for the transparency through you, Mr. Speaker, that we've had to date. And then this document came out saying the museum's going to be demolished. And it certainly flies in the face of the good efforts that I think many community partners have put forward in wanting to come up with a solution. And I know that the ministers articulated a desire to do that too. And I've been informed that there were, and it's public, there were 6 proponents that put forward requests for interest. One is further ahead in the process, but there's another interested procurer as well who wants to be a partner in making sure that this beautiful historic building can serve the community for future generations. So seeing that the government is prioritizing in what is a near record deficit year, spending $30 million on tearing down the building doesn't reflect the goodwill that I think's been built. So I'm going to give an opportunity for us to reconsider that by tabling an amendment today. I know that it gets voted on in main estimates, but my amendment is that we, under 3.1, page 140, cut $30 million, which is specifically earmarked for the demolition of the former Royal Alberta Museum, Mr. Chair. Is it okay if I continue with my questions? The original's there, yeah, thank you very much. May we stop the clock? Okay, I'm okay
continue
to
on.
keep going now, thanks. Okay, so that's the big one about the RAM, and then I want to spend the remainder of my 3 minutes talking about the health line items. So there used to be, until 2022, Alberta Health Services makes a submission to the Department of Health, and it has always been made public, and then that changed under the current premier and government, so that the AHS submissions for capital requests are no longer public. So I went back to similar submissions in the past to try to get an idea of what the scope of realistic investment would be for some of the announcements that the government's made. As the ministers mentioned, only $7 million, $7.2 million has been budgeted for the two towers that have been announced many, many times, a tower at the Misericordia and a tower at the Grey Nuns. Definitely in significant need of acute care capacity here in Edmonton and the capital region. So just for everyone's awareness, looking back at the AHS submission from a decade ago, the redevelopment of the Misericordia Hospital site was $2.5 billion, the estimate in their document. Now, that was for total redevelopment, but the NDP did replace the emergency department and right-size that. So presumably it would be less, but I'm just very clearly articulating that $7.2 million for two hospitals is far less than what former submissions used to speak to. For example, a new bed tower at the Royal Alex at that point, and again, this was 10 years ago, so there are probably inflationary pressures, was $1.4 billion in that same project. So, Mr. Speaker, I have significant concerns that the line item that refers to $7.2 million for those two towers is far from adequate, and we know that there are significant pressures within the acute care hospital system here in the capital region. And then the next one, of course, is the Stollery Hospital. I was very pleased to be at the announcement that the government made saying that they were going to move forward. They told the foundation to fundraise $1 billion, and the UCP's allocated $30 million. That just is like, it just feels totally inadequate for what is required to actually build a hospital. And the government knows because they're telling the foundation to fundraise $1 billion. So for this, and it is a public hospital, for us to see such little investment really says that the government isn't taking these matters seriously. So my question, I guess, would be, did the minister responsible for hospitals and surgical services bring proposals for the full scope, beginning with construction, forward, or did he fail to do that? And the reason why I'm asking is because the government hasn't scoped what they're doing with the Royal Alberta Museum, but they are allocating $30 million to tear it down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Chair.
Thank you. Minister, you now have 5 minutes to respond.
Thank you, member. I appreciate your questions, and I will tell you how much I know that the former Royal Alberta Museum, the RAM, is cherished by many Albertans. And our goal through my ministry is to find a solution that balances community interest and historic value in a cost-effective way. You know, again, we've been, and I appreciate your engagement on this, and you have been fantastic to work with on this. You know, on July 18th of 2025, Infrastructure issued a public tender for proposals to redevelop the former RAM through the Alberta Purchasing Connection, and you know, which is our dedicated platform for public sector procurement. On September 26th of 2025, that competition closed, proposals were reviewed, and Infrastructure is now currently in negotiations. We are continuing negotiations with the highest ranked proponent from the tender process to ensure the best outcome for Albertans. If an agreement cannot be reached, we may proceed with the next highest ranked proponent that met the initial qualifications. More details will be shared if an agreement is finalized. And all of those qualified proposals were reviewed through a fair and transparent process, with each submission assessed against the criteria outlined in the public request. I will say that there is demolition funding in the budget, as just in case funding should an agreement not be reached with any of those proponents, as a means of us being prepared, as was originally planned prior to me becoming minister, for that process to take place. But I appreciate your advocacy for this. I know it's an important project consideration for you and for members of your community and many Albertans. And again, I will continue to stay engaged with you on this, member. So, now on the health capital projects.
Just a little more information about the capital planning process.
So, as you mentioned, there was a different process. I believe you mentioned up until 2022. So Treasury Board and Finance does lead government's capital planning process. Through a series of requirements, including business cases and templates, ministries provide detailed information in support of their priority capital project submissions. Ministries themselves are responsible for identifying and prioritizing their infrastructure needs, including scope as well as cost and schedule, in consultation with the delivery ministry to meet their program objectives. Scope definitions require the service planning component to inform both the business case development and subsequent functional programming, which is necessary for effective design and construction processes. Infrastructure provides technical expertise and support by commenting on whether scope, timelines, and estimated costs for projects submitted to Treasury Board appear reasonable. Infrastructure, alongside Treasury Board and Finance, also evaluates the capital maintenance and renewal funding request submissions for vertical infrastructure across government. Our roles and responsibilities are to support program ministries such as hospital and surgical health services, education and childcare, and justice to deliver key social programs and services, and support economic development. We also support program ministries in the development of business cases, which in turn provide the evidence-based backup for the program ministry's capital submissions. Plan, design, build, manage, and maintain government-owned and operated facilities, and collaborate with other ministries to ensure that school and health infrastructure meets the needs of Albertans. Specific to the projects that you've mentioned around the bed towers, obviously, we have to do a full plan on those projects and design before we can anticipate what the construction budget will be to support those, the ministry's requests at that time to Treasury Board. We don't skip steps in this process. This is something that our ministry is very passionate about. We want to build projects at the best possible value to Albertans and at the best possible timelines, and skipping those steps does not enhance timelines or value for Albertans. I do have a deputy minister who's very passionate about this as well, that I can get to speak to it on a further round, as it looks like I ran out of time on this one.
Thank you, Minister. We will now go back to the Government Caucus, and Mr. Stefan speaking. Would you like block time with the Minister?
Block is best. Block
time it is.
rocks.
Go ahead.
So yeah, if block's okay, I'd love to do block. So I want to talk about happy things. In the fiscal plan, page 112, the Red Deer Regional Hospital, the budget for 26-27 is investing $239 million, 27-28, $382 million, and in 28-29, $415 million. So that's over $1 billion over the next 3 years. And why I'm so happy to talk about that, and there's so many people in Red Deer who are so happy about this, is this has been a long time coming. I remember when I was elected in 2019, there was a physicians group called SHECA. And it it was a society that was formed just to advocate for the hotel expansion. And unfortunately, prior governments, not just the NDP, but prior governments before the NDP, unfortunately had not treated Central Alberta fairly. And on a per capita basis had under-resourced capital funding infrastructure for the central region. And the NDP actually, the hospital was, expansion was actually canceled by them for a period of time. You know, and that was not very good at all. But in 2019, when I became an MLA, this was probably the biggest local issue. And there's a lot of excitement about this hospital expansion. And probably my questions are just going to focus on that because it is such an important project. I noticed that last week, actually, I had the opportunity to go with the health minister and local civic leaders and county leaders to view progress on the hospital expansion. And it's good to see it happening. So I guess a couple things that I wanted to ask is, you know, from your ministry's perspective, I would love to hear from yourself about project update in terms of how that is progressing from your point of view in terms of scheduled for you know, the buildings that are being constructed there. There's a lot of cranes right now around the Red Deer Hospital. There's a lot of work going on, but if you could provide maybe a timeline in terms of the project timeline, and has there been things done to expedite the project timeline? Because this hospital expansion, it's not just important for Red Deer, which is the third largest city in Alberta, but with a service area, this hospital provides for critical care needs of a service area of about 400,000 individuals. So it's not just the city residents that are interested in this, but all the surrounding communities. And as you know, Minister, Central Alberta is such an amazing place to live, to grow a family and to work. And this hospital, not only is it going to provide better health outcomes, but it will actually have a powerful economic stimulative effect in Central Alberta in the area, with all the number of health professions coming to work in the hospital to provide services that unfortunately were not available in the central region, which were available in the larger centers. So just like to hear about that timeline and learnings that you're having along the way in terms of this project, which I think is the largest capital project in the GOA right now, if I understand correctly. Stand to be corrected though, but just a huge transformative thing that will bless the good people in Red Deer, Central Alberta for generations to come, long after I'm gone as MLA. So yeah, if we could just get your comments on that, that would be just thrilling. And if you have any time left on that, maybe tell us about the courthouse, how things are going there as well. And with that,
Thank you, member. Thank you, member. We will now turn it back to the minister for his response.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, thank you to the member. You know, I love his passion for his community. His constituents are very well represented by the approach that he takes in advocating for them, and I just want to commend him through you, Mr. Chair. And man, you know, when we have projects like this that are so important to community and so important to a region like the one the member represents, it causes excitement for myself and my team. In fact, on Tuesday, March 3rd, we had the largest concrete pour to date at the Red Deer Regional Hospital Center with an impressive 1,000 cubic meters of concrete. That pour took more than 10 hours to complete and is a reminder of the scale, complexity, and teamwork involved in this project. So, yeah, this milestone reflects the tremendous effort, coordination, and commitment that has gone into the project to date. And member, I do hope that you know that you and your community are being well served. And again, thank you for the advocacy that you've placed forward for this development in particular. You're correct. The Red Deer Regional Hospital redevelopment is one of the largest hospital projects ever undertaken by the Alberta government. We are committed to ensuring that residents of Red Deer region can access the care they need when and where they need it. There are two major components of this redevelopment. Project one is construction of a new patient tower and new centralized power plant, along with expansion and renovation of the existing hospital's main building. And project two will be the construction of an ambulatory building. The major excavation is completed on the new patient tower, with vertical and horizontal structural concrete work progressing with slab on grade preparation. And I will say, I was a little bit jealous that you did get a tour with the health minister, and I didn't see an invite in my email. But regardless, I will look forward to the next occasion. Also excited that the new centralized power plant construction has begun with civil and structural works ongoing. The schematic design of the renovation portion of the project is also completed. This project, when done, will add up to 200 new beds for a total of 570. Over the next 3 years, the 2026 capital plan is providing just over $1 billion towards the total investment of $1.8 billion for the redevelopment of this hospital. The project will upgrade or enable several services throughout the hospital site, including an additional patient tower, the new centralized power plant, 6 new operating rooms, a new medical device reprocessing department, 2 cardiac catheterization labs, renovations to various areas within the main building, a newly renovated and expanded emergency department, and a new ambulatory building located adjacent to the surface Park 8. Functional programming began in April 2022 and was finished in March 2023. Design began in June 2023 and was completed in October 2024, with construction starting in early 2025. As far as timelines, the new patient tower will be a 54,000 square building and is anticipated to be built in 2030. The ambulatory building, with a multi-story facility of approximately 10,000 square meters, with over 230 parking stalls below ground over 3 levels, it will provide medical and clinical support services, including renal dialysis, ambulatory procedures, and diagnostic imaging to the Red Deer community. The ambulatory building is anticipated to be built by 2030. Design has commenced, and the construction manager is anticipated to mobilize on site to commence early construction works in June 2026. And as you know, with work happening on the existing site, the current hospital needs to stay fully operational, requiring the mitigation of noise, dust, vibration, and other construction-related impacts, including the safe access and operation of patient care activities across the current hospital site. So with that, I do express my appreciation to the hospital staff for their ongoing cooperation. I know that it's not easy to work in spaces like that with those things, but in anticipation of such a great facility upcoming, I hope that they're all eagerly anticipating that. And also, we appreciate the cooperation with the community of Red Deer as we move forward with that construction.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now go back to the official opposition. Member Beaupre, do you want block time with the Minister?
Continue with block time, if that's okay.
Block time it is. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the Minister. I asked based on the line item 2, capital construction, specifically 2.2 school facilities infrastructure, which funds the planning, design, and delivery of school facility capital projects in partnership with education and school boards, and includes modernization, major upgrades, and capital project oversight. I want to ask the Minister about the serious concerns being raised across Alberta regarding the declining condition of existing school buildings and their ability to handle extreme overcapacity. Across the province, school leaders are reporting that maintenance budgets have been reduced, repairs are being deferred, and schools are struggling to address even basic upkeep. At the same time, many buildings are operating far beyond intended capacity, stressing structural systems, accelerating decline, and impacting safety and learning environments. As enrollment surges, older buildings face mounting strain on HVAC systems, plumbing, electrical, roofs, and mechanical infrastructure, all while maintenance staff lack the resourcing to keep up. Given this, can the minister clarify how infrastructure reconciles reduced school-level maintenance budgets with its responsibility to support safe, functional, long-lasting school infrastructure? Whether the ministry has conducted condition assessments to determine whether existing buildings can realistically withstand the increased wear caused by chronic overcrowding, whether infrastructure anticipates greater capital renewal needs as a result of deferred maintenance and overcapacity-driven declines, how the ministry prioritizes modernization or renewal for divisions reporting the most severe maintenance shortfalls. Parents, teachers, the taxpayers, especially those in fast-growing communities where schools are bursting at the seams, want accountability for how funding under 2.3 school facilities infrastructure is protecting the buildings their children learn in, and exactly how this funding is being used to keep existing schools safe, functional, and able to handle today's pressure. And next one is based on the line item 2 capital construction, specifically 2.2 health facilities infrastructure, which supports the planning, design, and delivery of health capital projects, including hospitals and clinical facilities, and provides project management advisory services to health agencies. I want to ask the minister about the growing concerns coming directly from healthcare workers, just as we have seen in schools, about deteriorating conditions in the facilities they work in every day. Frontline staff report numerous issues, persistent leaks and water damage, aging HVAC systems with poor air circulation, electrical or mechanical failures, overcrowded clinical spaces operating past design limits, maintenance requests repeatedly delayed or unaddressed. These conditions have direct consequences for patient safety, infection control, worker health, and retention, yet the funding under 2.2 remains modest compared to the scale and urgency healthcare staff described. Given this, can the minister clarify how infrastructure incorporates frontline identified maintenance issues into capital renewal prioritization, whether the ministry is tracking the cumulative impact of deferred maintenance on service delivery, equipment failure, and safety, whether infrastructure anticipates increased demand for health facility capital maintenance, renewal due to aging infrastructure, and staff reported concerns. Alberta's healthcare workers are asking for safe, reliable facilities, and taxpayers want transparency in how dollars are being used to protect the buildings where care is delivered, and demonstrate that accountability by showing Albertans how this funding is addressing the facility concerns raising by frontline staff. And next question, through you, Mr. Chair, to the minister, based on the line item 6 strategic partnerships, which provides oversight of centralized public-private partnership, Work Sports Ministry is evaluating partnership opportunities and brings expertise to strategic procurement and alternative revenue models. I want to ask the minister about concerns that Alberta may be paying inflated or bloated contractor prices in partnership delivered infrastructure projects. Albertans have raised questions about whether P3 and partnership arrangements are competitively priced, designed in ways that discourage competition, structured with costly amendment fees or change orders, or providing private partners with premiums that exceed traditional procurement models. Given that 6 strategic partnerships exist to protect the public interest in these arrangements, can the minister clarify how infrastructure evaluates value for money to ensure taxpayers are not paying inflated partnership premiums, whether the ministry conducts post-project audits comparing final cost to projected procurement savings, what oversight?
Thank you, member, and we'll go back to the minister for a response.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the member for the question. You got quite a few questions in there, so we'll do our best to get some answers back. You know, for starters, in the 2026-29 capital plan, the government approved 54.7 million over the next 3 years for the school facility CMR program for the public-private partnership delivered schools. That CMR, the capital maintenance renewal funding for these P3 delivered school facilities is dictated by a P3 contract. The, 50.6 million covers the cost of set maintenance payments under these contracts to repair, upgrade, and replace building systems and service equipment. The program provides funding to cover the cost of maintenance payments under P3 contracts for existing school facilities. Thousands of maintenance and renewal events at Alberta's P3 schools are recorded each year, and greater than 99% of them are completed on time. Such events range from building performance failures, like no heat in classrooms, service failures, like snow removal after 24 hours, and accessibility failures, like flooding of classrooms. I know that we have modified our approach to these and improved a lot of processes that had been reported previously. And again, so to see that we have greater than 99% of these issues resolved on time is a huge step in the right direction from where we were at a number of years ago when a number of complaints were brought in. I'll also say school boards have access to 24-hour help desk that is utilized to formally notify the maintenance and renewal contractor of building performance failures, service failures, accessibility failures, and complaints relating to the contractor's own performance. Informal methods of communications between the school boards and M&R contractors are discouraged, as this approach bypasses the stringent performance requirement of the design, build, finance, and maintain agreements, and obviously oversight as such. Now, other than those P3 schools, the CMR funding for schools is actually delivered from education and childcare. They have $370.2 million in its targets over the next 3 years for CMR, and they provide that directly to those schools. Education grants the funding to school boards to carry out the maintenance of their facilities. So, again, if I can have my deputy supplement that a little bit, if that's all right.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. And I'm inserting myself here because I'm an advocate for the work my folks do, and I'm proud of what we've done on this file. As Minister said, our involvement in the upkeep of education facilities is through the P3 program. And I appreciate the tact you took where we're talking about getting feedback from the actual front lines, right? The people that are there. And like, I will acknowledge that as we moved into our P3 program, there were concerns at the frontline level that, they were assured or told they would get certain types of maintenance, and the record wasn't maybe as great as they wanted it to be. Brad's team has done a ton of work on restructuring the contracts that we enter into with our partners in the industry. We have pretty stringent time requirements now about how they respond to different types of requests. And I do want to maybe just note for the record the progress that I think we've had, because I think it's good. So our standards are on just routine type stuff, a response within 7 days and 30 days to rectify the issue. On urgent stuff, get back in 24 hours and fix the problem in 5 days. And on an emergency, we're getting back in 2 hours, and the problem is rectified within 4 hours. If our partners fail to meet any of these standards, there are financial penalties in the agreement. And the evidence actually shows that this is done well now to drive compliance on their end. And so if we skip way back to 2022, we had 3,600 events where schools made a report. We did well, but not as great as I would like. But our performance within the standards was 99%. But most importantly, what I wanted to bring bring to the record here was our results last year. So in 2025, we had 3,300 events. So events in total are going down, which I think speaks to the quality of the work that we have there. But in this year, 100% of those were addressed.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. We will now go to the government side with Member Bouchard asking the question. Would you like to share or block time with the Minister?
To quote MLA Stefan, block time is rock time.
Very good.
Go ahead,
Okay.
member.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, and your team for being here as well. I'll start with government facilities. The Ministry of Infrastructure is responsible for effectively managing Alberta's public facilities. One way of doing this is through using modernized and sustainable approaches to create efficiencies that ensure value for Albertans. Key objective 2.2 on page 100 of the business plan is to maximize the value of government-owned and operated buildings through effective management, adoption of cost-saving technologies, and reducing overall operating costs. What actions has infrastructure taken to enhance the efficiency of its government-owned buildings, and how has the government achieved savings in operating its properties? I'll go to capital maintenance and renewal. Given that one important responsibility of the Ministry of Infrastructure is maintaining the government buildings and facilities where government programs and supports are administered and delivered to Albertans. This includes making vital repairs to government-owned buildings like health facilities, schools, and courthouses. Budget 2026 provides significant investments into shovel-ready capital maintenance and renewal projects. These projects are often delivered by small and medium-sized contractors, employing hundreds of Albertans and supporting local economies and small business owners. Page 115 of the budget 2026 fiscal plan shows approximately 1.3 billion is budgeted over 3 years for the capital maintenance and renewal of schools, health, and government facilities. Through the chair, can the minister explain the importance of this line item? And can you also explain what types of projects are included in this line item? Also, how does Alberta Infrastructure manage capital maintenance and renewal projects? And are specific jobs contracted out, or are they directly managed and maintained by infrastructure staff? I'll move to charter schools, if I can. It seems new spaces and system impact another way our government is working to provide the educational space that students need through our commitment to school choice and the advancement of charter school projects. Page 113 of the 2026 to 2029 fiscal plan invests 36 million over 3 years for charter schools. Can the minister advise how many new charter schools this funding will bring online and how many of these are modernizations? And in addition, can the minister advise how many new student spaces these charter schools will create? And finally, how will these new spaces help to alleviate the strain on the province's public and Catholic school systems? Page 112 of the budget, 2026 to 2029 fiscal plan, includes several other health projects, both in Alberta's major centers as well as in our smaller communities, that will also help increase healthcare capacity and alleviate pressure on the healthcare system. Can the minister highlight some of the projects taking place in Alberta's major hospitals? And can you also highlight some of the projects taking place in our smaller communities? Also, how will these projects, once complete, help alleviate the strain on Alberta's healthcare system? And lastly, in collaboration with other ministries, infrastructure plans, designs, builds, and maintains facilities to support government programs and services, including museums, courthouses, and other government facilities. Page 116 of the 2026 to 2029 fiscal plan provides 67 million for the Calgary Court of Appeal over 3 years, and an additional 28 million over 3 years for other justice and correctional planning and upgrades. The Calgary Court of Appeal project has been going on for some time. Can the minister, through the chair, provide a status update for this project, and when can it be expected to be complete? And are there any projects being planned for the Edmonton Law Courts? And if so, would it be a capital maintenance and renewal project or a whole new courthouse? And one last question. How many facilities have been updated through the courthouse renewal initiative to date, and how many more are expected to be started this year? And when will they be completed?
Thank you, member. We'll now turn it back over to the minister for his response.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the member. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to answer a few questions. You did ask a few in that block, and I wish I could answer questions as quickly as you can ask them. So thank you for that, member, and thank you for your continued advocacy for your constituents. I do appreciate especially the question around the efficiency of government-owned buildings, something that we're all very focused on. And as part of our asset management plan, infrastructure actively reviews opportunities to better utilize government space. We invest in core owned assets, support ministry consolidations, and densify to government standards and facilitate the reduction of our office space footprint. Our projects align with targets set in the asset management plan to achieve cost-effective functional space, reduced footprint, and long-term sustainability. To make more efficient use of space and improve utilization, infrastructure has a long-term goal to achieve a density of 18 usable square meters per occupant in office space. Infrastructure aims to reduce high-cost lease space by 1% annually and invest in core assets, cost-efficient owned buildings as part of its long-term strategy to lower operating costs. In fiscal 25-26, infrastructure continued to enhance its asset management approach by developing long-term strategies and outlooks for government-owned and leased real property, including accommodation and land strategies. Infrastructure also completes capital maintenance and renewal activities on owned assets to keep buildings in good working condition and ensure functionality and usability to support the government programs operating within them. I will say, to achieve some savings in the operations specifically, we have implemented energy saving practices, reduce electricity and natural gas consumption to realize savings in operating costs. And in addition, infrastructure reviews its asset inventory to ensure efficient asset utilization. Infrastructure does seek to dispose of underutilized properties and instead invest in and densify buildings that it wants to keep over the long term. I would actually, again, with so many questions, I would like to highlight a little bit in particular around your area of the province, if that's okay. Couple of key projects underway in Alberta's major hospitals as part of our 2026 capital plan. Firstly, at the Alberta Children's Hospital in Calgary, we are advancing medical device reprocessing upgrades. This important planning work will support the proposed expansion of inpatient units. It includes completing a business case, a functional program, as well as a site master plan. This initiative also supports the addition of a new surgical suite approved through the Alberta Surgical Initiative, and also the planning for the new Research and Innovative Care Center, ensuring we're well positioned for the future of pediatric care in our province. Just on this one in particular, I was fortunate enough to meet with members of the incredible team at the Alberta Children's Hospital and have a tour, and such a special place that meets the needs of children and families in the southern part of the province, and just really proud of the work that they're doing. And they were very great with our team and showing us around and explaining some of the things that they were looking for to help them move forward in a better functioning system and setup. So again, appreciate the folks there. Additionally, at the Foothills Medical Center in Calgary, we are focused on expanding the urgent power plant capacity. The scope of this project involves expanding the existing power plant at the FMC site to accommodate new heating and generation equipment, including new cogeneration. This includes a turbine generator, a fuel gas compressor, a heat recovery steam generator, and a deaerator. These upgrades will strengthen the power infrastructure at one of our busiest hospitals, supporting reliable, uninterrupted care for Albertans. I also did a tour of this, and they knew that I was a bit of a geek when it comes to this, because I'm a power engineer in my background, and they were so great in touring us through this, and really excited about what that's going to do for that entire facility. On the Calgary Court of Appeal project, really pleased to provide an update on that. This important initiative is designed to consolidate the Court of Appeal into a new modern facility that will feature 2 dedicated civil courtrooms. To ensure seamless access, the facility will be connected by a pedway to the Calgary Court Center, providing direct access to the criminal courtrooms as well. We are also committed to preserving our province's heritage As part of this project, partial renovations to the historic Court of Appeal building.
Thank you, Minister. We will now go back to the official opposition, and Honorable Hoffman has the floor.
One more time, you want to share?
Let's do block to finish off.
I knew what the answer was going to be, but I thought I had to keep asking.
Go ahead, member.
Thank you. I'm going to focus on health capital. The other ministers made announcements that they were going to be expanding acute care capacity. We've already touched on the 2 towers that haven't been costed, scoped, or budgeted for in terms of any construction. They also announced that they were going to do a significant expansion at the South Health Campus in Calgary, and that isn't even, $7 million isn't enough to do to get things going, but there isn't even that in this budget. There's nothing for the South Health Campus expansion that has been announced multiple times by the current Minister for Hospital Surgical Services and the Premier. So I would love to know more about why there's no money at all for that when it's been announced multiple times already. And then I'm going to go through a number of line items that are in capital plan, page 112. And the first one I want to touch on is the Alberta Surgical Initiative Capital Plan. We've been told in previous estimates that this is all public money for public builds or expansions of surgical capacity within publicly owned facilities. It was underspent this year by $40 million, and that is about half of their budget. So why did we fail to actually expand, to invest the $84 million that was budgeted there? When we're investing so much in expanding opportunities for private surgical centers. The Bridgeland residence was also underfunded this year. The forecast is $9 million less than budgeted. And I'll just remind folks that Bridgeland and Norwood were both announced at the same time. When I happened to be the health minister, Norwood's been open for 2 years already, and Bridgeland, according to the Calgary Health Foundation, is still at least a year from opening. So what is going on there? Why is it taking so long? And why are we failing to get these more than 100 seniors, mostly seniors, some might be younger, out of hospital beds? Because this is really for the most acute residents needing long-term care who are living in hospital today. The next one is the CASA expansion. It was underspent as well by about $20 million and looks like it's going to be $20 million in the upcoming year. So why are we behind on that one? What's going on with delays there? The next one, the continuing care program, again underspent. It was supposed to be $178 million that we voted for. The forecast is only for $99 million this year. So again, these are folks who are living in hospital or living at home without adequate support. They're diagnosed as needing long-term care or assisted living support, and we haven't delivered on building the spaces that the government and opposition, that all members of the legislature through the process prioritized for them. The next one I've highlighted is the Jeans Wozdeski or the Norwood Center here in Edmonton, again underspent by almost $20 million. Why are we not getting this open to full capacity in a timely way? I do want to say that the increase to medical device reprocessing is a positive thing, going from what was budgeted $33 million, again underspent, but now we're proposing $98. But for context, 10 years ago, that was about what we were spending. And the reason why this is so important, I know you don't cut ribbons on medical device reprocessing units, but this is the equipment in our hospitals that we use mostly for surgeries. And it's so important that it's held to a very high standard. And folks might recall it was a number of years ago, before the NDP was in government, that there was a significant breach in the safety and well-being of residents in a hospital east of Edmonton here. So it's important that we get this equipment back up to proper standard. Red Deer Interim Cardiac Catheterization Lab, again, under budgeted. It's important that we get these projects right. We're saying that we need all this time to do scoping and planning, but we're clearly not. Rural Health Facilities Revitalization program was overspent significantly. This one's interesting to me. So it was supposed to be $25 million. Instead, government has spent $79 million. So what happened there? Why was it so out of whack from what was budgeted that they increased the spending by 200% over what was actually budgeted? And again, to reiterate the concerns around the Grey Nuns and Misericordia being woefully inadequate for what's being announced. And then lastly, the one I want to touch on is the urgent care centers. This is something that was announced again by the current government multiple times. There was only $5 million allocated towards it, but the government didn't even invest that in actually building and opening up new urgent care spaces in the province of Alberta. And to tie us back to our very first speaker from the official opposition, this past December, we saw a significant emotional response from all Albertans around the woefully inadequate staffed and provided long emergency care.
Thank you, member, and we'll go to the minister for his response.
And, yeah, thank you for your passion on this, and to all members of opposition, I do thank them for their time today and their dedication. Member, especially, you know that I love working with you guys, and again, just appreciate this opportunity to work with you. I'll just quickly get my deputy to speak on the South Health Campus expansion question. And, yeah, and CASA as well was in your list as well, so. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, and thanks again, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. I'll just take a quick second to kind of clarify sort of what our role in all of this and how it fits into those questions, right? And so a question with respect to South Health Campus, for instance, we would have to defer to the other ministers, maybe the Treasury Board Minister or the Health Minister. Our role here, right, is to deliver the projects, not to set what gets into the capital plan. Similarly with the CASA facility, it's ALSS is going to deliver that facility, and so I don't have information on that one for you.
Thank you, Mark. I know Bridgeland was on your list as well, member, and another facility that I've personally been able to tour. So, yeah, the construction of the Bridgeland Riverside Continuing Care Center in Calgary, we anticipate will be complete in 2026. It will provide a combination of adult day programs, 198 long-term residential care units located over 4 floors. The project will address the need for community-based continuing care and complex care in the Calgary area. Complex care clients may include patients with brain injury, dementia, or other developmental disabilities. And once complete, the center will provide adult day programs, long-term residential care, and a wide range of ambulatory programs and services for seniors throughout Calgary. The new center is in Calgary's Bridgeland Riverside community and will be approximately 25,000 square meters, or for people like me, 270,000 square feet. Over the course of the project, it is estimated we had about 730 construction-related jobs created. Now, again, I appreciate, I think that you know the timeline specifically, but for those who don't, the project did start in February 2021. And again, at this point, the estimated completion being in the fall of 2026. There were a few issues, obviously, that we were made aware of. In June 2022, construction activities were paused to address some design and construction issues identified by the contractor. There had to be an independent review to address those issues. And then construction resumed on site in February 2023. You know, regardless of the timing and the process, when we're made aware of any circumstance that is called into question, we do have to do our due diligence. When these projects are complete, they need to be constructed appropriately for the people who are going to be in them. Another issue on April 20th, 2025, unfortunately, a fire did occur in an uncompleted space of the new facility. The fire took place in the early morning when the facility was unoccupied, thankfully for that. While the fire was largely contained to one room, smoke and water damage was extensive across several floors and affected major equipment like air handling units. And then, obviously, with damage like that, there was time required to order and install new air handling units. And again, construction expected to be complete on that in late 2026. We continue to work closely with the contractor to minimize further delays, understanding that this is a priority for that community and for the seniors in that area. And we look forward to that new facility providing long-term residential care for years to come. The Norwood's components. The new Norwood Tower is complete with 234 residents receiving care. The remaining scope for this project is to bring the vacated former Angus McGugan Pavilion, built in 1973, which was last renovated in 97, up to current codes and standards, and to renovate the facility to accommodate 153 resident spaces. This file has transitioned from the previous health ministry to ALSS, who have differing needs and priorities, and they are confirming the final scope of work for the AMP. In parallel, when hazardous materials were removed, structural issues were revealed. A structural review was completed.
Thank you, Minister. We will now go back to the government side, and Member Van Dyken will finish the remainder of this segment.
Good. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Minister for being here again. And I just have questions with regards to schools, and the construction of schools is an important part of ensuring that we are able to build all these schools on time, on budget, and the like. So given that the strength of Alberta's economy is driving population growth and the need for new and modernized educational spaces, many communities feel that there are often lengthy waits from the time funding is announced to when the project is complete and ready to be delivered to the school division. Can you please explain the difference between pre-planning and planning funding versus construction funding? Can you explain the overall process of how we go from initial funding to completion? Why does it seem to take so long? And how is the Schools Now program helping to ensure school projects are delivered quickly to alleviate pressures on spaces for students?
Thank you, Member. Minister, for your answer.
Thank you, Member. Love talking about schools. It is our priority to ensure Alberta's students have access to the state-of-the-art facilities they need to learn and succeed, and the demand for new and modernized educational spaces is very high. Never get tired of talking about this. We committed $8.6 billion for allocation over 3 budget cycles for the Schools Now program, which began in 2025. And the program, combined with previously approved projects, will create more than 200,000 new and updated spaces across Alberta by 2032. With the announcement of the program comes a consistent and sustained provincial capital investment in school construction over a longer time frame, which allows for the market to adapt, plan for, and support future construction of school facilities. This commitment will allow our government to kickstart up to 30 new schools and as many as 8 modernizations and replacement schools every year for 3 years, for a total of up to 90 new schools and 24 modernizations and replacements. Budget 2026 approved $479 million in new funding, supporting 40 new and modernization school projects under this program. My ministry continues to work with industry to ramp up school construction, including discussions on capacity and delivery strategies, as well as working with municipalities and school jurisdictions to ensure that sites are ready. In addition, multiple types of delivery will be utilized for the Schools Now program to encourage as much participation from a variety of market participants and projects.
Thank you, Minister. I apologize for the interruption, but I must advise that the committee that the time allotted for the consideration of the ministry estimates has concluded, and I would like to remind the committee members that we are scheduled to meet this evening at 7 p.m. to consider the estimates of the Ministry of Arts, Culture, and the Status of Women. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.